Of the 7 Group Genie Mission Impossibles, this is the one that comes closest to being like the movie Mission Impossibles, in which the future of the world is at stake. In this case, it's not a fictional threat. Let me read the mission to you. The electrical power grid that the United States and Canada shares is vulnerable to a complete collapse that could last several months, even up to a year. If that happened, and if the 340 million people, combined population, are not prepared, it would lead to one of the greatest catastrophes in human history. The complete shutdown of the world's largest economy would not only cause unprecedented suffering domestically, it would lead to prolonged global economic and political turmoil. For these reasons, it is imperative that the people and infrastructure of these 2 nations be protected as soon as possible. Therefore, the mission is to spark a chain reaction of preparation that can protect these 2 nations and the world in 6 months or less. Before I very, very briefly summarize the solution that I worked out and that I believe is the fastest solution to protect these 2 countries, let me ask you a rhetorical question. If I can prove to you that the threat is significant, and if I can explain a very strong solution, aren't you naturally going to share it with your family and close friends? And once your friends learn about it, aren't they naturally going to share about it with their other friends and their family? And won't it naturally spread? So that is what I want you to see. I don't want you to just see me and an organization that's just beginning. I want you to understand the power of your network of family and friends to help this solution spread. Okay? Now let me try to summarize the solution. First of all, I created a whole website about this problem and my solution. It's called gridemergency.org. You will find it fully documented, documents from different branches of government to explain the extent of the threat. Okay, so you will come to the disturbing conclusion that you really are vulnerable and that it's very unlikely that the government will be able to protect you and 300 million people, within the week of this happening, to knock on your door and have all the supplies to keep you warm, keep you well fed, water, medicine, everything. Okay. Once you grasp that, it becomes terrifying because you think everyone's going to run amok, right? Well, because people think that way, people generally only come up with 2 approaches. Well, the third approach is to move out of the country, but the 2 approaches are about 2% of the population become preppers. They spend thousands of dollars preparing themselves and their family to be protected. The other 98% just think this is too bleak, this is too dark, I'm just going to hope that it never happens or that somehow the government protects us or I'm one of the lucky ones. Okay, it's too overwhelming, people just shut down. Okay, I've thought of a third solution. Think of it as an insurance situation. You don't like to spend insurance for homeowners insurance or renters insurance. You don't like to spend money for health insurance or car insurance or life insurance, but you often do because in many cases you realize you need a fallback. Okay, this is even more extreme because there's no strong safety net for everyone. You might pass on homeowners insurance if you have no money. You just think, well, my life will have to start over. I'll rely on the community. But we can't, the whole United States can't rely on other people because we're all in the same boat. Okay. So the solution very it's worked out in much more detail, and I've created a 40-page free PDF on preparation, on bare bones preparation. But the idea is that if you have 2 or 3 months of supplies for each person of your family, you're spending basically about $200 to $300 per person. Bare bones preparation. And imagine that 2/3 of people do this across the country. They have the means, they could afford $200 to $300 per person. Okay, so then the bulk of the country, 2/3 of people, have resources. Okay, another part of the solution is to put pressure on local government. Remember, we have a majority of people who now understand the problem and are putting pressure on local, state, national government to stockpile supplies for the 1/3 of people who can't prepare or won't prepare. You know, some people just don't have the savings, the credit, they cannot prepare, or they just refuse to prepare. Okay? There needs to be something for them so they do not run amok. That way, we have almost everyone in the country having access to resources, and with more pressure on the government and the utilities to do their part, then the United States can bounce back quickly. And if the rest of the world knows that the United States and the people of these two countries have a plan and are resilient enough to bounce back quickly, then they'll, you know, the economic and political stability will be stressed, but they'll know we're coming back, and that will minimize the global and political turmoil. So that, very briefly, is the grid emergency solution. And remember, the key is that each person does their part and supports family and friends to pass it on. Then we can have this chain reaction of preparation and advocacy. Thank you for listening.